Hello everybody, I am Dr.S.Deepa, working as Assistant Professor, SFA College, Sivahasi. In this video, we are going to discuss about CSS selectors. Before entering into the topic, let us see the learning outcomes of this video. This video helps to explain the fundamental concepts of CSS, and you can apply the CSS element to create dynamic web pages and to develop our pages using CSS selectors. Next, we are going to discuss about the introduction of CSS. So, the CSS expands for cascading style sheets, which is mainly used to style the web pages using HTML. It simplifies the task of the maintaining its style information such as font size, font color, line width and background color. The CSS is a text file which is mainly saved with the .css extension. It is also provides a pattern that helps in applying the style rules on specific elements. This pattern is known as selector. Let us see the evolution of CSS. The CSS is first introduced in the year 1996 on the recommendation of Wide Web Consortium. CSS 1 is published during the year 1996 and CSS 2 is published during the year 1998 and CSS 2.1 is introduced on July 19, 2007. Next, let us see the syntax of CSS. The CSS syntax can be divided into two parts. First one is selector and the next one is declaration. The selector is mainly used to list H1 to H6 effects, paragraph, ID, class and grouping, etc. The declaration module includes the property and the value of the particular property. So, the syntax is selector, we have to mention the property name and we have to mention the value of the property. Next, we are going to discuss about the types of CSS selector. So, first one is universal selector. So, it is a set of value for all the elements in the HTML document. So, it may be mentioned with the asterisk format. So, the syntax is asterisk and we have to mention the property and the value of the particular property. Next, so here is the example for the universal selector. So, in this example, we are using the font size as 32 pixels and all the font size set to 32 pixels in web pages. Next, type selector. So, the type selector matches all the elements specified in a list with a given page and determine the elements to which the CSS rules are to be applied. So, the example of the type selector is in CSS coding we have to mention the span effect and the background color of the span effect is sky blue, and the HTML code is here we are going to use the span effects. The output is based upon the span effects which is used in the HTML document. Next selector is class selector. So, the class selector allows the user to apply the CSS rules to the elements that carry attributes whose value matches with the class attribute specified in the class selector. The syntax is we have to mention the class with the dot class. CSS declaration should be carried out to apply the class selector. Next, here is the example and the output for the class selector. Here the class the style is applied with the class selector with the name of the class effects. The next, ID selector. The ID selector is used to specify the value of the ID attribute, and the ID attribute is a unique value within the particular document. Therefore, the selector is applied only to the content of one element. Here is the example and the output for the ID selector. The style effect is applied when the ID is used in the particular HTML document. The next one, child selector. The child selector is mainly used to match all the elements which are child of a specified element. In the child selector, we have to use the greater than symbol as a combinator. The next one is, here is the example for the child selector and the output is next one. So here is the output of the child selector. The green background element is applied as a style effect in the child selector. Next one is Descendant selector. This selector is matches an element. So this element is nested inside the another element. So next one is, here is the example for the Descendant selector. Here the style effects is applied when the Descendant tool is applied. The next one is adjacent sibling selector. So this selector is used to select an element that is directly after another specific element. The sibling elements must have the same parent element. Next one, here is the example of the adjacent sibling selector, and the output is displayed on the basis of the siblings which are used in this web page. The next one is attribute selector. This attribute selector is used to select an element with some specific attributes or the attribute values. So there are different types of attribute selectors are available in CSS. First one is existence selector, the next one is equality selector, space selector and hyphen selector. Like that we can apply the various types of attribute selectors in the particular CSS document. The next one, query selector. The query selector method is used to return the first element that matches the CSS selectors. So here is an example of query selector, and its output is displayed on the basis of the query raised in the CSS HTML document. The next one is conclusion. The CSS selectors can find or target the HTML elements and implement some styling properties on them. There are numerous types of CSS selectors are available. Each type performs different functionalities. The user can also combine some selectors and apply some same rules in many different ways. Thank you.